What's that Dirk song?
New op pack in the air, this gas or what? He'll still be alive right now if you niggas ain't gas him up. Give my shorty stimulus and guns, I tell him slap for nothing. He ain't dying for nothing. If she don't fuck on the first night.
Okay. Alright. Let's get it. Because the street saying that Charlie Kirk, they saying he met his end. So, we gonna see. Because actually it says it right there. Okay. Wait, yup. Yep. Bro, gonna race massage start.
I love good news. Love good news. I just love good news.
Yo.
I love good news. Love good news. I just love good news.
Yo. Oh my god, bro. We gotta take a shot. We gotta take a shot. Crazy. See, here's the thing that I have a problem with people, right? Charlie Kirk is a father, husband. He's a human. I don't care if you politically disagree with him. Nothing justifies this sick act. Charlie Kirk made a career, a lifelong career, out of for like the last decade. Actually, not lifelong, but for the last decade or so, out of spreading hatred, racism, white supremacy, misogyny, and just every form of bigotry imaginable. He was a sad, pitiful, and pathetic man who hated pretty much everything who hated most things on earth, right? People who were different from him, people who were not cisgendered white males. So when people talk about, nobody should be, nobody should have their life taken over political difference, right? This man was promoting ideologies that supported. I gotta watch what I say. This man was supporting ideologies that were inherently responsible for the deaths of millions of people, right? He's not a good person. And so when you spread hate, you get hate back. Now, I'm not the type of person that believes in moral karma in the sense that if you do bad things happen to you. We all know that that's a lie. Because often the worst are the ones in positions of power, the ones who have influence, the ones who have mass followings, i.e. Charlie Kirk, i.e. Donald Trump, etc., i.e. Joe Biden, etc. It doesn't matter. However, when these victories are so few and far between, these little Luigi moments, and this is one of them. Me at the hospital watching Charlie Kirk's latest sideline. No, look, and here's the sad thing, right? Because you know that the right is going to have this visceral reaction to it. And so rather than taking time to mourn their fallen brethren, they're going to turn it into a politically charged narrative and try to ascribe blame to a group of people or an individual. So far, they can't isolate who exactly it was, so they just say the left, right? I don't think they have a suspect in custody right now. I have to check. And so because they don't have a suspect in custody, they just say it's a leftist. If it was a black person, they would say this is the problem with black people. This is why we all need to be in cages. If it was a trans person, they'd be like, trans people, blah, 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 they're unhinged, you're mentally unstable. If it was an Arab or a Muslim, they would say they're Hamas. I saw the video too. It was graphic. It was very gruesome. Like streams of blood just cascading from his neck. It was horrible. Was it? Not really. And the thing about it, right? The thing about it is that right before, and I saw the video, his last words were something related to gun violence. And we know whenever they talk about gun violence, it's a dog whistle for African Americans, right? They're talking about black people. And then he gets blicked in a crowd full of white people. You were just talking shit about the African American community, and your own people did you in. And let me go to the news. Lack of security. They were talking about how there was a lack of security at the event. And I think that part of the reason why is because he felt safe. He spread all that hateful rhetoric about other people who thought he was safe amongst his own people. Then look what happened. That's my theory.
Very heavily. I, as well as Ryder, my son, we're both big Charlie Kirk supporters. It hits home, having it happen here where I actually graduated from college many years ago. And it's just a sad day. It's a sad day.
No, it's not.
And it'll.
See, this is the problem with people like Charlie Kirk. You focus so much on black people and everybody else, and your own people do you in. What's that Dirk song?
New op pack in the air, this gas or what? He'll still be alive right now if you niggas ain't gas him up. Give my shorty stimulus and guns, I tell him slap for nothing. He ain't dying for nothing. If she don't fuck on the first night.
Bro, honest to God, out of the few people on earth that I had genuine hatred for, he was up there. He was up there. And it's a shame, right? It's sad that this stuff has to happen. We have to remember that this happens to a child in Palestine every day. You know, the same place that he says where they weren't the indigenous people of the land. Their culture is fake. They don't actually exist. You know? Here's an article. Charlie Kirk 2023. I think it's worth it to have a cost. I think it's worth it to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment. That is a prudent deal. It's rational. Nobody talks like this. They live in a complete alternate.
So we need to be very clear that you're not going to get gun deaths to zero. It will not happen. You can significantly reduce them through having more fathers in the home, by having more armed guards in front of schools.
But he didn't even have armed guards at his rally. You know? They said that the security was dog shit. Interesting.
We should have an honest and clear reductionist view of gun violence, but we should not have a utopian one. You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational. Nobody talks like this. They live in a complete alternate universe.
He's in an alternate universe now. He's in hell. I wonder if he still feels the same. I wonder if his family feels the same way. His wife and his girlfriend. I'm sorry, not his girlfriend. His wife and his daughter. That's a damn shame. You're sick for wishing death on. Yep, this is the exact same clip.
I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we'll.
Okay, let's look at it like this, right? Let's look at it like this. The only time people say that is when they feel divorced from the violence. The only time people say that is when they feel divorced from the violence, when they feel like they're safe, they're sacrosanct from it. People who are used to gun violence, so people who actually genuinely fear it, don't talk like this. And this is the problem with a lot of Americans and a lot of Westerners in general, people in the United States, Europe, Canada, etc., Australia. They treat war and violence as though it's a trivial matter. And they reduce it to tangible metrics and calculations. They have this really utilitarian approach to the loss of life. I believe it was Joseph Stalin that said this: one death is a tragedy, a million deaths is a statistic. And so that's how they view loss. That's how they view death. Not just domestically, but especially abroad. Whenever they hear about war and conflict, because there's always a war, there's always a conflict that we're getting invested in, that we're starting, or that the U.S. that the Western governments are starting. I don't want to say we, because I'm not a part of that. I have no say over that. But there's always a war that Western society, Western governments start, and it often involves the mass slaughter of black and brown people in the global South. And so even back at home, right? Because this is the problem with white supremacy and conservatism, is that eventually it turns inward, and so even they themselves are not sacrosanct from their own malice and rhetoric. And so the disposition that they have towards black and brown people is the same thing that they have for each other, but they're able to insulate one another from their malice, from their violent tendencies and proclivities, by sort of outsourcing their malice and their depravity towards black and brown people. And so this is why whenever there's a mass slaughter of a school, right, they don't do anything about it because they don't actually care about protecting the children. They don't actually care about making the country a better place. They care about upholding the tools and the agency to inflict harm upon other people. They don't care about each other, which is why this is going to be used as a political tool rather than a moment of mourning and self-reflection. What got you to this point? Spreading this type of hatred. This stuff like this didn't have to happen. Mind you, Charlie Kirk is on record on a multitude of occasions just bringing up and provoking the black community for no reason. Like in totally unrelated topics and situations, he'll just bring up black people. And nobody's thinking about him. He just brings this up for some reason. This isn't a good man. And when you think about the legacy that his rhetoric has to slavery, to Jim Crow, to institutional racism, he's a part of it. He's an agent of it. And because of that, he bears the same degree of accountability and culpability of his predecessors. And a lot of them got what they deserve. A lot of them didn't. Actually, I think most of them didn't get what they deserve. But many of them did, especially with the Civil War and everything. And so he's part of the lineage of evil. He is. And they're all the same. And they're all equally responsible because they're cogs. They are differences of a larger sum of racial violence and oppression. They may express it differently. They may have their own rhetoric, their own style, their own aesthetic. It doesn't matter. They contribute to the exact same global system of terror. And so when people like this meet their end, it is deserved 100%. Because they don't do anything to solve violence. He literally just, and mind you, the majority of times when like think about what happens with schools, right? That's white on white crime the majority of the time. They don't care. They talk about black on black crime all the time. You got picked off by your own kind. You got picked off by your own kind. You talk about black on black crime. The irony isn't lost there. All that talk about black on black crime didn't save them. So you're not going to see conservatives all of a sudden come out and talk about we got to stop white on white crime. Even though they probably should. Please save them. No. And so you see him walking with his daughter, right? Yeah, in the same vein. He excuses, enables, and peddles the merit behind the deaths of Palestinian children that look just like this. They're just like her. Same age and everything. Same degree of innocence. By the way, according to Charlie Kirk's logic, his death is his own fault, not the shooter's. Yep. The deaths of women and children in Gaza are the fault of Hamas, not blank. Just like I gotta watch what I say because I don't want to get my shadow banned, but whatever. Just like the deaths of Japan during World War II were the fault of Japan, not America. That's a crazy thing to say. I think both sides bear equal accountability, but yeah. When the government engages in unprovoked murderous aggression, they are to blame for everything that results. Yeah. I mean, you engage in unprovoked murderous rhetoric. I guess you're to blame for that. What's your favorite Addison Rae song? I don't even listen to Addison Rae, but okay. It's still worth a try. Exactly. Charlie Kirk. Dang. Do they really? But like I was saying, I'm not a leftist. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a Democrat. So don't say, oh, he's a Democrat spreading hatred and violence. No, I'm not part of any political party. I'm not a Republican. I'm not conservative, obviously. I'm my own man. I believe in common sense. I'm not a centrist. Don't put labels on me. Crazy. Hey, let's make one thing clear. from the start. Charlie Kirk is the victim of a shooting in a country where he, along with other right-wing extremist influencers, have been inciting violence for years. Kirk is neither a martyr nor a hero. He's a cause. Exactly. And that is the effect. He is a cause, and that is the effect. Charlie Kirk was a G-side apologist, anti-immigrants, anti-abortion, still women, anti-women's rights, anti-anything human rights, very racist, Islamophobic. Not saying he deserved it, but he deserved it. Real. Charlie Kirk recently said to a Palestinian that there's no such thing as Palestinians. When I look, there's no such thing called Charlie Kirk. Who's a reporter on this? Let me go to Don Lemon. I know he's a reporter on it.
I think that our politicians, and especially Democratic politicians, are doing the right thing. They're not stooping to the level on this issue, and I don't believe that they should. Now,
let me say one more thing before we get into it. What was it like a few months ago? A couple of Democrat politicians were gunned down by like a right-wing extremist or something like that, and they were cheering the Republicans, the right. They were cheering for this, conservatives, and yet their man gets hit, and suddenly it's prayers up. Suddenly it's nobody deserves this, and when they were just saying die libtards. Okay. That political binary has everybody in a chokehold. Everybody is ensnared. But it has, but if the liberals are ensnared in 100%, the Republicans are ensnared in 200%. I know that doesn't make any sort of mathematical sense, but bear with me. They live and die by the conservative base. That is their religion, because it openly supports white supremacy. Whereas the liberals, it's more clandestine. And the ends always lead to the exact same thing, but the methods are different. With conservatism, the methods and the ends are one and the same. So the methods of white supremacy and the ends of white supremacy sort of are congruent. Whereas with liberals, the methods would be sort of subversive of white supremacy, with them supporting like social justice initiatives, DEI, things like that make them appear as though they are socially progressive and they care about human rights, all the while they still support imperialism, capitalism, and slaughter in the global south and the Middle East and Africa.
Now, on other issues, you guys know, I think they should meet Republicans with the same energy. And when they go low, I think Democrats should go to the crust of the earth, to the earth's core, below hell. But when lives are in jeopardy and are at stake, and especially right now where this is a tinderbox. Trust me. I hate to give the cliche, but old people be knowing. Trust me, this is a tinderbox, and I am concerned about what the possibilities are. Mm-hmm. What is to come after this?
Yeah. Because that not just the base, the civilian base of the conservative ideology, but the politicians as well are going to use this as a means to implement policy. Or some sort of social structure regarding this, relating to this, right? Narratives, etc. If this is a person of color that did this, they're basically going to start a race war, or at least try to. But because it's Utah and the crowd was basically indistinguishable from mayonnaise, they're just going to blame the left in general. And so they're probably going to take on more aggressive and abrasive political policies that affect, people who are, quote, left-leaning, even though it's not actually left, it's still right, but it's right-light or light-right. Still, the people who are liberals or adhere to the Democrat Party. And typically, reactions like this affect, minorities. I don't like saying that. Let me not say minorities. Typically affect people of color and marginalized individuals and demographics. And so they're going to try their best to garner a retaliatory response.
This shooter activated. Possible retaliation, what? People are going to be afraid to be out in public. Case in point. Case in point.
Somebody said something along the lines of that the right sacrificed Charlie Kirk to start the race war. And I would not be surprised if they did that at all, especially with all the conspiracies revolving around the Trump attempted assassination. Let me go to a different source.
I'm going to show you the evidence of what I'm talking about.
He's going to get into it. Hold on.
This is Fox News. Watch.
So this hits differently because Charlie was one of us. And Trump gets hit in the ear. Charlie gets shot dead. They came after Kavanaugh with a rifle to his neighborhood. They went after Musk's cars. They just shot 2 Jews outside the embassy. Think about it. Scalise got shot, barely survived. It's happening. You got trans shooters. You got riots in LA.
Yep.
They are at war with us.
Yep.
Whether we want to accept
see
it or not, they are at war with us.
You can see the framing right now. You can see the framing right. Rather than mourning their own kind, immediately they jump to violence. The same violence as the reason why your man just got hit.
What are we going to do about it? How much political violence are we going to tolerate? And that's the question we're just going to have to ask ourselves. Now, Charlie would want us to put as much pressure on these people as possible. Dana nailed it. This is unacceptable and has to stop. And it has to stop now. And everybody's accountable. And we're watching what they're saying on television and who's saying what. The politicians, the media, and all of these rats out there. This can never happen again. It ends now. Greg's right again. This is a turning point, and we know which direction we're going.
Yep, there's the
there
framing.
You go. Told you. Now, Jesse Waters failed to mention all of the right-wing extremists who have committed and been perpetrators of political violence in this country. Did
they forget about January 6th? When they literally stormed the Capitol?
mention January 6th.
There we go.
At all. And how those people were pardoned. Criminals for breaking the law. Now, I'm not saying, look, it happens. Does it happen? Do left-wing people do it? Yes.
Yeah.
Not as much as the right. Let's just be honest. Especially now in this environment. And we know who the number one, sadly, in shootings in this country as it relates to gunning people down in mass shootings at schools, in the workplace.
Yep.
It's domestic terrorists.
Yep.
It is white men radicalized to the right. And that's not just me saying it. The head of the FBI said it.
Yep. You can look at the data.
And now Charlie Kirk, one of their big leaders on the right, a huge proponent of the Second Amendment, unabashed opponent of the Second Amendment, believed that the Second Amendment had little, if any, no restrictions.
That's the consequence.
And that the Second Amendment was there to protect us and to help us keep our God-given rights. I'm paraphrasing, but it is pretty much a quote from Charlie Kirk. My thoughts are with his family. Just because you didn't agree with him, it does not mean that you should shoot him.
See, again, this is the problem with the left. I'm not supporting violence. I'm not saying that we should be violent. But what I'm saying is that you can't have this sort of soft disposition and empathy for people who don't have any empathy at all. For people who consistently dehumanize individuals like Don Lemon, African American, like Arabs and Muslims. I know he's not an Arab or Muslim, but I'm saying. For people who continuously dehumanize and call for the deaths of black and brown people globally, you cannot have any sympathy for those people or their families. Because they did not want to do better. If they wanted to do better, they could have and they would have, but they didn't. And their own rhetoric betrayed him. His own rhetoric betrayed him. And that's why he's in hell right now, burning, looking up at us. You know, there are consequences to actions. There's consequences to running your mouth. And anybody who's against the right, I'm against the right. I'm against the right and the left, but I'm especially against the right. You can't have this soft approach with monsters. This loving, forgiving stance, because they wouldn't have the same thing for you. In fact, right now they're strategizing on ways on how to eradicate you, as we just saw the guy on Fox News. So while the left is talking about thoughts and prayers, what is the right doing? Radicalizing, galvanizing, preparing, strategizing on ways to further dehumanize, destabilize, and end the lives of people just like you. They blame the whole, they blame the sum instead of the individual. See, when it comes to this is one of the reasons why I hate leftists, because they're so weak. When it comes to leftists or people, I'm sorry, liberals, my fault, because they're not leftists. When it comes to liberals, right? They look at an incident, and they always try to play devil's advocate. They always try to find the neutral ground, the middle ground. Try to find some sort of rational way to converse with or to meet people who are irrational. They try to find a rational avenue for the irrational. They try to make peace with people who are only interested in violence, and you cannot do that. If liberals are more like conservatives in the sense that they doubled down on their rhetoric, they were uncompromising in their beliefs, they held steadfast in their convictions. It didn't falter to platitudes and sympathies when their enemies were vanquished. They would have much more of a backbone and a stronger base in the country. They wouldn't consistently lose elections or lose support. A show of strength is necessary, and liberals don't seem to have that. And this isn't like this is of liberals of all races and backgrounds. They have this really forgiving mentality. And this is why they always fall short. So while you guys are talking about thoughts and prayers, they're loading up their weapons, getting ready to riot and burn stuff. They're proliferating hateful rhetoric about you guys while y'all are offering sympathies. All right. I don't get it. I really don't get it. It's like, at what point do you guys learn? But whatever. Where are we going back to? The man who shot Charlie Kirk. They said that he did, but I think he, what was this, 3 hours ago? This happened at 2. They said that he did, but then they also said that they didn't have a suspect, so there's no suspect right now. Yep. No couldn't be crying about Charlie Kirk getting shot after you spent the last 2 years turning a blind eye to or endorsing the systematic slaughter of Palestinians. Yep. We don't know yet what motivated the person who shot and killed Charlie Kirk, but this kind of despicable violence has no place in our democracy. Michelle and I will be praying for Charlie's family tonight, especially his wife, Erica, and their 2 young children, Barack Obama. Hey, Obama, how many people did you bomb in the Middle East again? This kind of despicable violence has no place in our democracy. Didn't he bomb didn't he initiate a drone strike on a bus full of children in Yemen? I might be wrong. He has no right to talk. They dropped so many bombs they ran out of bombs. What do you what? Bro, he has no right. Obama has no right to talk. White man blowing your neck off a day after you were just saying white people don't do stuff like that is hilarious, bro. I'm sorry, rest in shit, Charlie Kirk. Real. Maybe Charlie Kirk shouldn't have spent years being a hateful demagogic fascist, and this wouldn't have happened. Maybe you should have taken some personal responsibility. Yeah. Almost 7,000 people signed a petition to stop Charlie Kirk from speaking at Utah State. Well, they got their wish. Charlie Kirk refused to let George Floyd rest in peace. Meanwhile, I'm supposed to mourn him. I will show him the same respect he showed George Floyd. Exactly. Charlie Kirk's last words being gang violence right before being shot by an elderly white man is something. Right? He felt so comfortable amongst his own kind, and they did him in. I do think it's worth noting that few people in this country contributed to the culture of political violence quite as much as Charlie Kirk. Exactly. Rest in shit.